President Muhammad Buhari blames factors from within and without for Nigeria's security woes. Court of Appeal in Abuja rules that public officers who fail to account for security votes entrusted to them are engaging in stealing or misappropriation. In international news, U.S. President Trump now finds a new foe in Chief Justice John Roberts, who spoke out against Trump's angst against U.S. courts and judges. And in sport, Super Falcons bounce back, beat Zambia 4-0. Coach Uwape blames lack of consistency for his team's defeat.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. President Muhammad Buhari says internal and external factors are responsible for Nigeria's precarious security situation. He laid the blame when the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies presented him with a security report of Course 40 on Wednesday in Abuja. The president said his administration inherited in 2015 security challenges that threatened lives and properties. As a result, he said his administration commissioned the institutes last year to study the country's security problems and suggest sustainable solutions. He said these challenges not only threaten the security of lives and property of Nigerians, but also the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the country. He mentioned the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast, farmers and herdsmen conflict, separatist agitation in the southeast, and militancy in the south-south. He said finding solutions to those problems calls for the collaboration of security agencies and communities.
There is no doubt that a lot of effort has gone into the preparation of the report. In particular, the findings, policy recommendations, and the community policy models canvassed, which are presented along with the implementation strategies, are worth studying very closely. I am pleased.
The Senate has directed its Committee on Police Affairs to probe the unending killings going on in Zamfara State. The committee is headed by Senator Tijani Kauda, who had drawn the Senate's attention to the killings and kidnappings that take place every day in Zamfara State. Kauda said the president's efforts and intervention to stem the ugly incident, the killings have not only continued unabated, but have increased. He said as of Wednesday, more than 100 persons have been kidnapped across the state's 14 local government areas. Another senator, Kabiru Marafa, said the horrific crimes were getting so rampant that something drastic needed to be done to stop them. Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly in Uyo, the state capital, is off limits today to lawmakers, staff and the public. It has been sealed by police. Angry youths had stormed the complex on Monday protesting against the speaker's sacking of 5 lawmakers who had defected to the All Progressives Congress APC. The road leading to the building had been blocked by police trucks. The police had given no reason for its action, as if to give a rival message. Hours after a new police boss was sent to Akwa Ibom State, the sacked lawmakers held their own assembly and removed the speaker on all fake look and elected a new speaker in Seutun, one of them representing SN Udem State constituency. The state government has condemned the removal of the Commissioner of Police, John Abiang. He had spent about a month in the state. Commissioner for Information and Strategy Charles Udo said in a statement the Commissioner of Police was hurriedly withdrawn for doing his professional duty responsibly. Meanwhile, a Senator Basi Akpan has alleged that the 5 lawmakers were plotting to impeach Governor Udom Emmanuel and that the police had sealed the assembly complex to provide a cover for those 5 lawmakers. Akpan is now the only PDP senator from the state in the Red Chamber. The ruling by the Court of Appeal in Abuja over the weekend has sent shivers into many public officers, especially governors. The public appears to be satisfied with the position of the court as it aligns with their opinions. The ruling was that public officers who fail to account for security votes entrusted to them are engaging in stealing or misappropriation. The court says this act is similar to genocide and should incur the most serious penalties. This was part of reasons given as the court affirmed the conviction of former governor of Taraba State, Jolin Yame, who was earlier convicted in June and given a 14-year prison term. A different appellate court panel had also confirmed the conviction of a former governor of Plateau State, Joshua Daria. Justice Emmanuel Ajim read the judgment of the three-man appellate court panel on Yama's appeal that said there was a tendency by Nigerian public officers to wrongly believe that the security votes given to them for security of state were their personal entitlements or funds. He said those funds must be accounted for or returned to public coffers. He said failure to do so would amount to stealing. Justice Ajim said because of the pervasiveness and widespread impact, that particular corruption is a crime in the class of genocide. Campaigns are beginning to shape up for the 2019 general and presidential elections. It is expected that many promises will be thrown at the polity during the exercise. One might have just been offered on Wednesday by the presidential candidate of the Action Democratic Party, ADP, Engineer Yagba Sani, who says he will pay workers a minimum wage of 100,000 naira if elected as president next year. Yes, 100,000 naira minimum wage promise. He did not stop there. He also promised to create 5 million jobs annually if elected as president. Sani gave the promises in Abuja on Wednesday while addressing the party leadership, candidates, journalists and members. Sani bemoaned the present condition of Nigerian workers and said the 30,000 naira minimum wage proposed by organized labor was too small for workers to live decently. He said the country has the ability and the wherewithal to pay 100,000 naira minimum wage. Sani said he's running for president as a response to a generational challenge. He said after 58 years of independence, Nigeria has no excuse for the quote, abysmal performance we have recorded in every sphere of human development, end quote. Former President Goodluck Jonathan says one of the most dramatic moments for him while he was Nigeria's president was a gruesome murder of innocent members of the National Youth Service Corps in Bauchi State. At least 7 Corps members were confirmed killed in the state by angry protesters following Jonathan's declaration as winner of the 2011 presidential election. Jonathan made this revelation in his new book, My Transition Hours. That details some of his experiences in power, particularly the intrigues surrounding his loss and concession of defeat in 2015. In the book, he stated that the NYC gruesome murders in Bauchi were one major traumatizing experience for him during his time as president. He also mentioned the near civil war in Kaduna State that led to the death of many and destruction of properties. He stated, quote, I often wonder why my political philosophy, which insists that my ambition is not worth the blood of any Nigerian, was not attractive to many amongst our politicians, end quote. Director General of the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, Mustafa Mahaja, has responded to allegations by a House of Representatives committee that he mismanaged the agency's 33 billion naira. He says he didn't do it. The committee says the funds should have gone into catering for internally displaced persons and other emergency issues. Mustafa said at a briefing in Abuja on Wednesday that the allegation was untrue, especially since his agency, NEMA, had never received such huge budgetary allocation since it took over as DG. He said he was not given an alleged 5.8 billion naira by the federal government. He said his agency only received 800 million naira. He then explained in a long line item list how the money was spent. Mahaja said his agency dealt with 12 states and receipts are available for every transaction made with those states. Coming up, African stories. South Sudan woos investors as peace deal revives oil industry. And later, international news, U.S. President Trump now finds a new foe in Chief Justice John Roberts.
You are watching ANN.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow the story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News in African Stories. Democratic Republic of Congo's Health Ministry says 13 new Ebola cases have been confirmed on Wednesday, in one of the highest daily counts since the start of the outbreak 4 months ago. Ministry spokeswoman Jessica Ilunga says this new data on the epidemic are exceptional. The number of new cases has accelerated in the past month, and an emergency committee of World Health Organization experts said in October the outbreak was likely to worsen significantly unless the response was stepped up. Considered the worst in Congo's history, the disease has infected more than 380 persons and killed 2/3 of them. Attacks by armed groups near the outbreak's epicenter have hampered international efforts to control the outbreak. Treatments, vaccination programs, and safe burials of victims have been disrupted by a surge in violence and ardent local mistrust of health directives. The United Nations Humanitarian Coordinator in Central African Republic says endemic violence is pushing the country towards famine, with 63% of the population already needing emergency aid. UN humanitarian chief in the country, Najak Rochde, says almost 3 million of the 4.5 million population needed aid, and 1.5 million were in acute need. CAR has been in chaos since 2013, when mainly Muslim Seleka rebels ousted the president, provoking a backlash from Christian anti-Balaka militias. More than 1 million persons have been killed in the fighting. Rochde says if the situation remains the same and people are not going back to work, there will be a catastrophic scenario that could threaten hundreds of thousands. Angola is still waiting for economic miracles a year after the election of President João Lourenço, who promised during his campaign trail to change the economy, as the country faces financial crisis since 2014. The government launched a nationwide crackdown earlier this month in pursuit of new tax revenues. Police Chief Paulo de Almeida, who launched the operation, says the goal is to re-establish public order and the state's authority in a country he says anarchy and disorder reign supreme. Government ministers have promised a return to economic growth next year, but that will largely depend on a rise in oil prices. Finance Minister Augusto Achille Megara recently insisted Angola's economy would grow through rigor, discipline, efficiency, and patriotism, but some fear the impact on those already below the poverty line. South Sudan says the country's latest peace deal has helped revive its war-battered oil sector. The country's warring parties signed a new peace deal 2 months ago to end 5 years of civil war in which close to 400,000 persons were killed. Its oil industry, which funded about 98% of its budget, was also crippled. Petroleum Minister Ezekiel Gatut told hundreds of investors at the second Africa Oil and Power Conference in Juba on Wednesday that the peace deal has revived activity in Unity State, raising production to 155,000 barrels per day, a 20,000 barrels increase per day. The oil sector's revival was a key part of the peace deal mediated by Sudan, whose economy has also suffered from the slowdown in oil outputs to the start. 3 university students have died in Ethiopia after violence broke out at their institution on Tuesday. Minister for Higher Education, Ruth Woodamariam, says the clashes first began as a dispute among several students. The dispute quickly erupted into ethnic conflict, incited by people she alleges opposed to the ongoing reforms by the country's new Prime Minister, Abiy Ahmed. 34 others from Asosa University were injured in the incident. Woodamariam says a team has been formed comprising members from her ministry and others to visit the university to restore peace. A 17-year-old South African boy has been accused of stabbing to death a primary school pupil. He now faces criminal charges. The older boy is alleged to have hid in the school toilet overnight before attacking the younger boy. Police spokesperson Tumelo Matiaso says the victim died on Wednesday on his way to a local clinic from the school in Makapanstad. A statement from the Education Department says it appears the suspect knew the deceased and that he was allegedly in a romantic relationship with a grade 1 pupil's older sister. They said there might have been a fallout between the couple and the alleged perpetrator targeted the younger brother. The department says the police will conduct a full investigation. That is just so sickening. The World Bank says child marriage will cost African countries tens of billions of dollars in lost earnings. The bank has published a report on ending the practice and is being presented at the African Union Commission Summit in Ghana this week. The World Bank says young brides are more likely to drop out of school, meaning they are likely to earn less money. The report says, on average, women who have a secondary education are more likely to work and earn twice as much as those with no education. It added that estimates for 12 nations, accounting for half of the African continent's population, suggest that through its impact on girls' education, child marriage is costing this country $63 billion. When we return, U.S. President Trump now finds a new foe in Chief Justice John Roberts. And later, Super Falcons bounce back, beats Zambia 4-0.
You are watching ANN.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby.
We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward.
Wait, stop.
You okay, lean to your right. Keep walking down, keep walking to the left, yes.
You're almost here.
Keep going.
You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to global news. Denmark has suspended future approvals of weapons and military equipment exports to Saudi Arabia in response to the killing of a dissident Saudi journalist and the kingdom's role in the conflict in Yemen. Germany has already suspended issuing future weapons export licenses and has moved to halt all arms sales, while France said on Monday it will decide soon on sanctions over Khashoggi's killing at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul last month. Saudi Arabia is one of the world's biggest weapons importers. It has a military coalition fighting in a civil war in Yemen in which tens of thousands of people have died and caused a major humanitarian catastrophe. The European Union's 27 national ambassadors will try on Thursday to finalize an outline declaration of future ties between the bloc and the United Kingdom ahead of a planned summit on Sunday. Britain is due to leave the EU in March, but the sides must yet approve a divorce deal and the accompanying outline of their new ties in the future. EU leaders hope to rubber stamp the accord at Sunday's summit. British Prime Minister Theresa May failed to close all the gaps with the EU during talks in Brussels on Wednesday and said she would return on Saturday, hoping a last-minute intervention will be enough to push the accord over the line. From her side, May must also decide on a potential extension of a transition period after Brexit, which the bloc said could last until the end of 2022 at the latest. A French rights group has sued Abu Dhabi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan for his alleged involvement in the war in Yemen. The Alliance for the Defense of Rights and Freedoms accused Al Nahyan of war crimes, complicity in torture, and inhuman treatment in Yemen. The lawsuit was filed in a Paris court during Al Nahyan's visit to France. The complaint against the Crown Prince cites a report by United Nations experts. The coalition attacks may have constituted war crimes and that torture was carried out in 2 centers controlled by Emirati forces. One of the cases to which the lawsuit referred is the bombing of a building in the Yemeni city of Sana'a in 2016 when a wake was taking place for the father of the Houthi administration's interior minister. The head of Russia's military intelligence agency, whom the West had blamed for a string of brazen attacks, died on Wednesday after a serious and long illness. The Ministry of Defense heaped praise on Colonel General Igor Korobov, who had run the spy agency best known as the GRU since 2016, saying he had been made a hero of Russia for his service in the post. That is the highest paid award. Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, a close ally of President Vladimir Putin, expressed his condolences to the Korobov relatives. Britain has accused the GRU of attempting to poison former Russian spy Sergei Skripal and his daughter with a nerve agent. The Netherlands has also accused the spy agency of trying to hack the global chemical weapons watchdog. And U.S. intelligence agencies say it tried to hack the 2016 American presidential election. In a rare moment of direct criticism, Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts rebuked President Trump on Wednesday for the president's description of a federal judge who ruled against his asylum policy as an Obama judge. Within hours, the president fired back on Twitter, launching an unusual conflict between the executive and judicial branches. Trump's initial response was to a ruling by U.S. District Judge John Tiger, who issued a temporary restraining order against Trump's asylum policy on Monday, saying it violated a provision of the asylum law. Trump called the decision a disgrace, adding, quote, "This was an Obama judge, and I'll tell you what, it's not going to happen like this anymore," end quote. Today is Thanksgiving Day in America. The event is celebrated on the 4th Thursday in November each year. It is usually followed the next day by the world's most frantic shopping day, known as Black Friday. The USA isn't the only nation to mark Thanksgiving celebrations. Canada, Puerto Rico, and Liberia do so as well. In early days of New America, the grateful pilgrims invited Native Americans to join them for a huge harvest feast, which has since become known as Thanksgiving. The tradition has continued for hundreds of years and is celebrated with lots of delicious food and wine. The only creatures that must obviously hate Thanksgiving are turkeys. They have become the symbol of Thanksgiving, with millions of them eaten on that day. Up next, sports. Super Falcons bounce back, beat Zambia 4-0. Stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
If you know fit go internet or follow for Twitter, you know fit snap photo send or get it photo send. Now because you dey use Palasa, your phone no dey answer. See me see wahala. My brother, go get smartphone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no go for your hand, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no fit take selfie. Drop that Palasa phone. No be correct phone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone.
Upgrade to a smartphone today and get double data for 6 months on any MTN data bundle you buy. Simply purchase a smartphone from any store, anywhere in Nigeria, or bring your current smartphone from any network. Insert your MTN SIM card to start enjoying your double data bonus. Offer is open to all new and existing MTN subscribers. Join the largest smartphone movement today.
Make it up for your hand. That's Palasa phone.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sport, The Super Falcons of Nigeria redeemed their image on Tuesday at the ongoing Women's Africa Cup of Nations as the Cobalt Shepolo of Zambia 4-0 in their second group game. The Nigerian ladies, who started their title defense on a disappointing note with a 1-0 loss to South Africa last Sunday, had promised they would make amends in Tuesday's clash. They did so in style. Super proud of the ladies. A FIFA Ethics Committee judge, Sundro Rajal, was arrested on suspicion of corruption in his native Malaysia and has resigned as director of an arbitration service. Rajal was detained late Tuesday by anti-graft investigators after returning from FIFA headquarters Zurich to assist in a corruption probe. He was held overnight but released after a court accepted his representative's argument that he effectively had diplomatic immunity because of his high-profile legal roles. Apart from sitting on FIFA's Ethics Committee, Rajal was director of the Malaysia-based Asian International Arbitration Center. He has been accused of using his position to gain financial favors. That is NN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on this and other stories, visit our website, annafrica.net. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at NN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.